Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in Central Washington. My name is Chris Rader. I'm glad to be your celebrant this morning, along with our worship leader, Reverend Thomas Perchlik. If you're a visitor today, we're very glad you're here. We welcome every person of goodwill, just as you are, whatever your religious background or beliefs, whatever body you inhabit, you are welcome here. We invite everyone to join us for coffee, treats, and conversation after the service. For the folks on Zoom, you'll find the order of service and the song lyrics in the chat. Owen Barnes is our Zoom host today. For the folks in this building, will you please take a moment, turn around, and wave to the people on Zoom. The camera is right above the exit sign. Hello, folks. And now, please take a moment to greet those around you, especially somebody you don't know very well. 4 quick announcements before we start the real service. First of all, thanks to the worship arts team for all the wonderful art, and thanks to all of you who participated with some beautiful paintings and all kinds of stuff. It really is lovely to have for the next few months. Next Sunday, right after the service, our membership team will host a newcomer chat. Anybody who's relatively new to our fellowship is welcome to attend. It's a chance to get to know our minister and a few of us and each other, to learn a little about CUF and to socialize over snacks. That's next Sunday. The Interfaith Justice Coalition will not hold its regular monthly meeting in September, but invites all to a community education forum about voting. It's Tuesday, September 17th at 7 p.m. at Wenatchee Valley College in the McGuire Conference Center. There'll be food, children's activities, and a chance to register to vote before the forum begins. The forum will be led by the 2 auditors of Chelan and Douglas counties. And finally, a memorial service for our dear friend Tina Skull will be held on Saturday, September 28th at 2 p.m. at First United Methodist Church. Our fellowship is located on the ancestral homeland of the Pasquosa. For thousands of years, they have lived here, making a vibrant way of life and a rich culture from the land, the animal beings, and human neighbors with whom they shared it. We acknowledge that their land, like that of so many other First Nations in this country, was taken because the U.S. government broke treaty obligations and allowed uninvited white colonists to settle on the Pasquosa homeland. The Pasquosa still live here, still practice their cultural traditions, and are still working to have their rights restored and treaty obligations fulfilled. For more on this subject, you can visit our website, cascadeuu.org, under Welcome.
To call you into worship, I remind you of the symbol of our gathering, chalice, the flame. The chalice is a cup with a stem or a base. The point of the stem is to make it easier to drink from and to be able to move it with one hand instead of 2. It makes it more accessible. It lifts it up higher so it can be seen by all. The body of the chalice is born of the earth. This one in particular, clay of the earth, shaped by human hands and tempered by fire. The chalice also always holds fuel for the flame. The chalice helps the flame be more safe, be more useful, more visible. The flame reminds us of the light of love, glow of truth, the fire of sacrifice, and the burning of devotion. Thus, the flame and the chalice and the fuel remind us that we are all here to move forward together. In the Spirit, let us be gathered for worship.
So the chalice and the flame symbolize our congregation gathered in principles and faith. If you at home have a chalice with you, please join us all now in lighting it. Here in the sanctuary, we will speak these lighting words in unison. Fire and water are ancient opposites. Sun and ocean are the source of life. Dancing flame and dancing river, we invoke them together as we come together in community. Today, we're going to remain together as a community of all ages. I don't know if there are any children here. We've got August. Nice to see you, August. And you, anybody is welcome to be thinking about the answer to the question that's the focus of this poem. It's called The Wonderful Thing. What is it? Above the highest peaks, imagine the high peaks of the Cascades. What's above them? On the icy mountaintops, think of the top of Mount Stewart or the Enchantments. Under the melting snow and down in caverns deep underground. It is in the drifting fog and mist. What is it? Through the billowing grasslands, it is in the trackless swamp. It saturates the Olympic rainforests, yet sits on a blade of grass. It is steaming in the rotting mulch. What is it? Out in the tangy, salty seas where the whales roam, in the smallest village and the largest city, it is as valuable as gold, as precious as air. What is it? Gentle as kisses, yet more powerful than rocks. Enjoyable and fun as life itself. Splendid in rainbows, a miracle thing. In streams and rivers, hear it sing. It is the blue of our earth in the vastness of space and as close as the skin on your face. Okay, you can all say it out loud. What is it? Great.
Center of this service, this worship service today, is all of us sharing. Let me just say one or two words, a few more. There's not a time for coming up and speaking about what we honor or remember before that. But we have this moment right now to think of the sorrows that weigh on our hearts and the losses that drag us down. We have this time to remember, and consider the sources of joy that cause our hearts to lift up and sing. If you would like to, you can come forward and light a silent candle, and I will light a candle in the middle of the sand. But otherwise, let's all sit together. We're going to listen to the song, Comfort Me, and then, is it okay? I'm an ordained minister. I had to learn how to pray. It was not native to me. It was not natural to me. To me, being aware, being grateful, being open was the center of my spirituality. But to give it words was difficult. But for other people, like this song that we just sang, to speak our desires, to give words to what it is we understand and to form a sense of relatedness to what is holy and powerful and good is natural, is most comfortable, is most inspiring. So in the silence, if you have words that you would like to speak, silent words to the holy, to yourself, to what matters most, or if you would just like to listen to your breath and open your mind to what is ultimately real, do that together here in this community, knowing that there is no one path that is perfect for all, and yet all our paths bring us closer together. In silence, let us meditate or pray. And all of you or any of you heard it, but just as we began the meditation and prayer, the dog River had a little prayer. There's an old adage. The adage is that a rising tide lifts all boats. It is a hopeful, it is an inclusive image. Great ocean liners and little canoes, all lifted the same amount by the rising sea. It is often used to describe the universal benefits of a growing economy. More wealth in general means more wealth for everyone. But this is not exactly true, is it? In terms of boats, one with a very short chain or mooring rope, one with a hole in it, one that's overloaded and tilted to the side, will not necessarily lift but sink as the waters rise up. Likewise, our economy, the web of income and expenses, sales and profits, in that web we are not all lifted equally. I remember visiting the Pacific Northwest back at the beginning of the 1980s, seeing the effects of the rising waters of the tech boom in the city, stretching out, spreading the city out across the plains. And then, as I visited only a few years later, going down near Pike Place Market and Pioneer Square, I saw a growing tide of homeless people there in the downtown. The rising economy had priced them out of their homes, and some troubled or trapped by shifting needs, by unfortunate illnesses, terrible circumstances, were simply set adrift. The heart of the city could not embrace or meet their needs. They had become impoverished amid rising plenty. I realized the image of the many floating boats did not address the complexities of human communities, and this new adage came to me. A rising tide lifts boats, but it also floods the basement. But Unitarian Universalists, we are Universalists, foremost, want to lift all boats with a rising tide. Not just in terms of material wealth. We want a rising tide of love and compassion. We want a rising tide of peace and security and well-being and health. We want a rising tide of justice in its fullest sense. There's so much to drag us down. Fear and worry, violence, individual violence and wars. So we do things as individuals and congregations to try to lift not only ourselves but other people. This congregation, for years, gives away every day food through our pantry. We give away every week food to children at Rock Island School, or food at the St. Luke's Episcopal Church, just to help those who are being threatened by hunger and poverty not be alone and adrift on a dangerous sea, but lifted, their boats lifted. We want all people to feel that they are valued parts of a caring community. As we prepare for this day, I thought about how this is a central image of the water ceremony, that we bring our experiences together so that we can lift all boats. You may know that water is an ancient image of the holy, of the spiritual, of all that's life-giving and good. Jesus spoke about living waters that quenched the soul and flowed from the heart. Ancient Jewish prophets spoke about justice flowing like living waters. And the Quran, Surah 16, says, He, Allah, is the one who sends down rain from the sky, from which you drink and by which plants grow and your cattle graze. He produces for you grains with water, olives and date palms and grapes and all kinds of fruits. Surely that is a sign for people who think. I noticed that we have some plum trees out the back here. It's on this southern side of the stone Buddhist garden, the rock garden. And those moist fruits are all coming ripe now. And I encourage, a lot of them are just falling on the ground and being wasted. But I encourage you to go out. They have thick skins and they're not the perfect plum. But there's something of water and moisture coming up through the tree and providing this sweetness. And then finally, another quote of goodness and water is from a song, a Unitarian Universalist hymn, one of my favorite ones that was written for the gathering of Unitarian Universalist youth back in the 50s. It says, "We are all like streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea." But then not long ago, thinking about boats on water, the power of the water, I got into an argument with a couple of boat owners. I naively asked this question: what's the difference between a boat and a ship? Assuming that there was obviously people who lived around boats and rode in boats and knew all of it, would have clear definitions of these words. And it did not go that way. Eventually there was arguments as if the world depended on the answer, and finally some appeals to the Google gods. I had to settle on a definition, and it was: a ship is a boat that can carry other boats. So today, the ship that is being lifted by the water that we bring in is our fellowship. My wife has to put up with this every day, so be glad. I want you to know that this gathering of water, the idea of people coming together and finding their power by gathering water and pouring it together, came into Unitarian Universalism when Unitarian Universalist women, who were really inspired by the 77 Women in Religion resolution that we passed nationally to affirm the power of women, to strengthen the role that women played in our movement. Back then, there had been significant feminist changes, but not enough. There was still not parity, there was still not equity, there was still not full empowering. And so there's this movement, and these women gathered in 1980 to further their place in our religious movement and our institutions. And they wanted to affirm their unity and power, though they would go back to different places. There was something about coming together that they wanted people to both bring what they're bringing in and then what they could take with them. And they had a worship service. And various women from different districts in the Continental Association were asked to bring water. They brought the water, they spoke about where it came from, and in this worship service, which they sang together and brought the water together, many were moved and thought it was such a powerful experience that they wanted to bring it back to their congregations, and so they did. And then other congregations inspired other congregations, and eventually this congregation heard about this wonderful ritual and brought it in. It's just something about water and the pouring of it together and the blending of all our unique experiences into one that is very significant and moving. The point of this service, of course, is to regather our energies and come together after the summer has separated us, and now as school and other patterns are kind of coming back together. Many of us are coming back together. Each of us has our own little boat to row, our individual life to lead, and yet we know that together our boats rise more than they can alone, more securely, more certainly. One of the greatest shifts in our Unitarian Universalist religion has been, approach to religion has been the shift in our culture about individualism. We used to just embrace the radical, unquestioned individualism of America. Every person should be free, every person should be independent, everybody should be able to forge their own beliefs and life as they see fit. Much of the Unitarianism and then Unitarian Universalism in the 50s and 60s focused on the free-thinking individual throwing off the shackles of the past. But then in the 80s we adopted principles, and the seventh principle about the interconnected web of being, because we understood there was something about the connections that mattered. We affirm that not only that web of being, but also in the sixth source, the spiritual power of the rhythms and cycles of the world. And those have all been woven into our new statement of values, a statement that the words are kind of invoked by that flower. Love at the center, and justice and equity and generosity. Transformation requires connection, requires quality of connection. This is part of our power. It is not enough if I am free unless I can use my freedom to forge healthier connections to lift all living beings. We want to restore the health of the whole community of living beings, of the trees, the beavers, and the ducks, and the fish, the deep swimming salmon. This was enunciated so well by a song that we're not singing today, we'll sing in a couple of weeks. A song that says, "Our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free, but free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creeds. A freedom, a social code, freedom from a social code, freedom from any social code that fails to serve the cause of human need, a freedom that reveres the past, but trusts the dawning future more and bids all souls in search of truth adventure boldly and explore together in power." So the theme of this service is bringing an image of our life, our explorations, our experiences into the rising sea of this community in order to lift us all. A river may start as a little spring in the mountains, jump over rocks and flow through forests. We may have brought water from our own home nearby, simple experiences, or from the other side of the earth. This ritual is not about telling stories of our travels. It is about sharing our lives with one another, which we do throughout the year as a religious community. What is most meaningful, what is most powerful, what is most transformative, what helps us face the things that we fear and the evils that we see in the world. We bring these together. And we'll begin with water saved from last year's service. Since we do this every year, there are elements in the water from all the years past representing ongoing and continuous flow of this congregation. The way my brain works, I had it earlier. I'm going to go get it. So I'll pour that at the end of the ceremony. I'll pour in all the waters. And I also have water that I will pour myself from personal experience of great significance. Well, actually, I'm going to do this. I gathered water from the Salish Sea. I sailed on a ferry boat across the Salish Sea with my wife to San Juan Island. And we spent some time in Friday Harbor, the little town of Friday Harbor there. And we watched a seal, a harbor seal, go right for, we were on a dock and we watched it go swim right under us, a little harbor seal swimming along. I married this woman because she's immensely helpful and scolds me every time I make terrible mistakes. All right. So this is the water from our previous ceremonies. And so first I'm going to pour this, and then I'll pour some water from the pitcher that represents the water from the Salish Sea. From the past, from all the times and years, not even remembered and lived by this particular congregation, but present in our gathering. And all the individual people poured water into this bowl before. Each year we take some out, right out of that bowl. So there's a little bit, a few molecules from everyone who has ever participated in this ceremony. I first pour that into this bowl. And then to represent a very personal moment of joy and connection with my lovely spouse. After 40 years of marriage, to be together on a beautiful island and watch the seals swim through the ocean. And now I invite all who have water, that have brought water, to come forward. You'll see flowing water on the screens. Come forward, I'll give you the microphone. You can say where the water came from. If possible, come around this way, come past the flames, and then come up here. And so you can speak first and then pour the water. Or you can come this way. It's good to line up so that the water keeps flowing. There you go, Emily.
I'm Emily Soroki, and my water is from the Columbia River, which we appreciate so much for our power and our irrigation, and for VTech rowing, getting his exercise, also for it being home to so many creatures.
I'm Nancy Warner, and this water is from the Sailor Sea off the coast of Whidbey Island, where we walked recently with friends and took our new dog, which some of you have met, Emma Rose, to the beach for the first time. So it was a beautiful day.
I'm Roxanne Harrison, and my husband John is over there somewhere. And we've spent a lot of time camping with friends and family this summer. We were super bummed to miss the recent camping with all of you who went to that. But anyway, when we go camping, we often have water that we set out to kind of bring in the essence of that place and have that as something that we then do similar to this, just we have our own traditions that we do that with, and we're sharing water from those experiences.
I'm Hideo Fujita, my wife Stephanie Ko. We brought some water from home. This is a healing water. It's Kangen water. It is ionized with a pH of 9.5.
Hi, I'm Linnea, and this water is from my tap at home, but it represents river water from the Minnehaha, which is on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin, where I visited my sweet Wilhelmina Rose with August this summer.
Hi, I'm Peggy Ludwig. This morning I went down to the Columbia River, so it's very fresh. 79 years ago, 3 years before I was born, my parents made their way west, driving west from Waterloo, Iowa, looking for a place to live. This was after my dad had gotten home from serving on the front lines of World War II. My 5-month-old brother was on a mattress in the back seat. And they made their way from Spokane down on Highway 2, down past Waterville, and got to the bottom near Rondo and saw the Columbia River. And my dad said, "This is it. That huge, beautiful resource of water will make this valley always financially stable and be a source of abundance." So that's why I'm here and was born here because of the Columbia River.
So I'm Barbara Edwards, and this is going to sound unoriginal, but this is from my tap that I pulled this morning, so like Peggy, it's very fresh. But it's such, I'm pouring this in because I have such an appreciation for the good water that we can drink. And over the last year, I've really been working hard on health journey, and I have drunk gallons of this. So it's very much appreciated that we have access to such a wonderful source of clean water. Also appreciating it for the fact that it helps keeps my plants going and me nice and clean. So it just, when you come back from a long one and you just feel gross, you just almost feel like a reborn and rebirthed, and it's all because of water. So.
Hello, I'm Tom Rowe, and I don't know if I should share this now, but when I arrived today, I went to the greeter, Ronnie, and said, "What should I do with this?" And she said, "You just have to hold your water." So I came to this area about 45 years ago, mostly to be near the glaciers and the snowfields that I used to enjoy hiking and climbing, and I don't do much of that anymore. But I walk along the Highline Canal almost every day with my dog, actually sometimes twice a day. And so this water is from the Highline Canal, which for me, at least originates up in those glaciers and snowfields I don't get to very often, but brought me to this area.
Hi, my name is Selena Hernandez. I also was down at the Columbia River today. I'm surprised I didn't see you down there, Peggy. I am just so thankful every day for the beauty of that river. It was one of the reasons that drew us here a few years ago. Also thankful for the habitat that it provides and the irrigation and the hydroelectricity and the wonderful recreation.
Hi, I'm Bill Swenson, and my wife Kathy Samuels is sitting back here. This is just tap water from our new house here, and I'm bringing it in gratitude for our new home here in Wenatchee.
Thanks, Tom. I'm hardly ever embarrassed, but that got me. I'm Ronnie Craven, and this water is from this tap out here. It represents my childhood growing up, the Columbia River, going up to Lake Chelan. My kids spent every Friday at Lake Chelan every summer with friends. My kids are all water babies, and there's something about that that just refreshes us. It also, of course, feeds our land, our animals. And growing up here, I probably took water for granted, but during travels, getting to see other places that weren't so lucky. Anyway, bless the water.
I'm Don McKenzie. This water's from Lake Chelan, and my grandfather, I don't think he built. He bought a family cabin before I was born, and we spend a lot of time there every summer. And cousins met there from not just my dad's family, but the cousins that accumulated from all the aunts and uncles. And our last people that came were my sister and brother-in-law from Louisiana, and so it's still drawing family back, and I'm very thankful for that.
I'm Bonnie Orr, and this is water from my water feature. And the reason I adore this water feature is that the birds come and bathe, but I love watching the fledglings taking their very first baths under the supervision of the parent bird.
Emily Fogel, and I was introduced to the Columbia about 40 years ago. So can't add much other than it's, roll on Columbia. It's been nourishing people and things for millennia.
I'm Suzanne Sorum, and this water is from my home that nourishes me and my garden and the valley.
My name's Diane McKenzie, and this is a collection of water from various hikes in the mountains here. And even had some water. I was up at Rock Mountain, and I brought some Rock Mountain water. It's where I find my spiritual home.
I'm Amy Genova, and this is water from my daughter's tap in Seattle, and her beautiful family of 5 9-year-old and 2 5-year-old twins, and the cups of water, and the tears, and the scream, and the laughter, the wiped up spills, and the little girls helping one another, and setting table, and putting glasses of water, and the wet kisses. And the bottle is some hot sauce that my brother had sent me, Daniel's Inferno, and I noticed the last 3 ingredients are salt, honey, and love.
So I recently bought an off-grid property, and I am dependent on my neighbor for water, and my neighbor isn't somebody who I would have thought I would choose to spend time with. And then I have Owen Barnes water, which was collected during a thunderstorm last year. With it, he adds strength and bonds within the congregation.
My name is Maite Madsen. I've brought water from home, which admittedly I've not seen very much of this summer because I've been super busy, but this represents the love, nourishment, and rest home brings.
Hi, I'm Sarah Severson. I welcome others who were forgetful to pour symbolic water from here, right? I didn't bring water, but thanks for this. Again, for the Columbia, to which we're connected from a creek by our house, and it goes all the way to Portland where my daughter is right now.
I'm Leroy Farmer, and we live on this is Lake Cortez water, little lake out in Malaga where we live, and it provides recreation for my family. In the summer, we kayak and swim, and in the winter, there's ice skating. And in the fall and the spring, we have thousands of birds come through, and it's a stopover for birds. So this water, I'm just thankful for it, representing all kinds of living things. Depending on the season of the year, it provides it all.
I'm Elliot Scull, and this water is from the Columbia River, where I have spent many, many hours paddling, swimming, and enjoying. But this also represents a life spent on the water. I've sailed and kayaked and swum, sometimes not intentionally, in waters all around the world. Arctic waters, tropical waters. I'm very, very thankful I've been able to share that with my wife and my children.
I'm Julie McAllister, and this is my husband, Steve Clem. And our water is from the Napa UU Church, where we were in August. Now let Steve talk.
And we're lifting up Napa and their fellowship. It just absolutely wonderful people. We felt so welcome being there. and they have so much energy around their social justice. And with COVID and with the aging of their fellowship, they're now down to 30 members. But they have incredible energy. There is so much joy there. We were so inspired that we want to lift them up and add them to what we have here.
Hi, I'm Carol Velasquez, and my water represents what I use in my garden. I love to dig in the dirt and have a beautiful garden in my backyard and feel very fortunate to live here in the Columbia Valley.
I'm Laurie Chamberlain. I did not bring this up with me to the top of Mount Adams. I got it from the tap, but it's symbolic. I climbed Mount Adams this summer with my wife and my daughter and some other friends, and it was beautiful. And just imagine you're sunburned and hot and sweaty and surrounded by snow and just getting this ice cold water out of little pools where the snow is melting, and it's very refreshing. So.
My name is Chip. This water is from a tap at home. It represents the time this summer that I revisited the Columbia River, where we put Paige's ashes because the Columbia River was so special to her. So it represents that. It also represents last night's dinner with Rita and Gary, because yesterday was the 56th anniversary of as long as Paige and I have been together, even though she's been together the last 4 spiritually. So this is for Paige and Gary and Rita. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're Larry and Penny Taliska. This water represents a couple of places, the Columbia River and Glacier National Park, places that we like to canoe, and Larry rows and then kayak. But it also represents the idea of sharing this with others and bringing others into the idea of being on the water, because sometimes people around here have never been on our river, and so that's really important to us to help share this with others.
And Penny's worked many years now, really doing the mainframe work on making the Youth on Columbia program happen. So that's part of what she's referencing and too modest to mention. I'd like to add that this water, Columbia River water, represents connection, because for many years I've been giving rowing instruction down at the Columbia River at the foot of the little linden tree area, and the most rewarding part of that, as it's developing over the years, are the people I meet and the relationships with those people, and enduring relationships often. And so I love that, and that's what this water's about.
I'm Kathy Lau, and we had the privilege of doing some hiking in the French Alps this summer, and I came away with just the awe of that rushing glacier water melting off, just churning and roiling by. And one memory that sticks out is the water had carved through these rocks. It was almost like a tunnel you could look into, and there was a old Roman bridge that had been built over it. And it was just inspiring thinking about the passage of time and how many people had walked that pathway.
Hi, my name is Marta Flores. I didn't bring any water, but I brought you a poem about the Columbia River, which I love so much. Cascading down the mountains as melted snow, the river is speaking in 1,000 voices. Voices of the natives whose life depended on it. Voices of generations not yet born. Legendary wings carved the shores into freelance sculptures. Rushing waters carved into the basalt rock, into canyons, going through layers of time, a long journey across the land, crisscrossing borders, going through farms, bringing nourishment, bringing new life, the powerful Columbia in all its might.
My name's Mary Madsen, and I didn't bring water, but this represents the tears of joy and sadness from this congregation and around the world that I've been aware of this year.
I'm Chris Rader. Thank you all for sharing. This is really wonderful to hear all these stories and all these sentiments. This water is from the Wenatchee River. Many years, decades of fun, beach fun with my family along the Wenatchee. Then the Wenatchee is picked up and comes down into the Highline Canal right to my yard through the irrigation system that we have, Wenatchee Reclamation, for which I'm so grateful, and my flowers and my tomatoes and everything else, like so many of you. Hooray for the water. Anybody else?
Do we have anyone on Zoom who either has a text or verbally wants to share something? Anyone on Zoom? No? Oh, no. It is nice to know that we are connected to people through the internet. Not everyone can come here, or can't come here often, or not at all. Some people are far away, and yet love this community, love to share their life with this community. I did find some of the salty seawater. I figured out where I put it, so I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. Then I'm going to gather some water out from the bowl to represent and to carry on into next year. And then after this, the service ends in this space, the very end of this. Times the rivers are rough, the torrents ragged, the rocks dangerous. We are all lifted by each other's love and care and passion and faith and hope. Flow onwards. May we all continue to flow graciously and joyfully to the mighty sea of love and justice.
We extinguish our chalice. Please join in saying the words printed in your order of service or on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and embody in our living until we are together again. So our tradition is to gather in a circle and around the sanctuary here and sing together once more. And as Thomas said, we will then go outside and form another circle around the big tree and return our gathered water to the tree of life.